Hello everybody, welcome to another rapid speedrun game against Paco, rated 1025. So we get a Sicilian, but it's a closed Sicilian as he won't be playing d4. So we're going to try to take advantage of the d4 square by playing e5 and clamping down on it early so he can never pawn break. By doing this, we give up one central square in return for another. However, he does have a c-pawn that can go to c3 and try to take control of, at least so our pieces can't jump in. He goes d3, just a normal move, but he blocks in his own bishop, so it's not as good. I'm just going to play d6, cement my pawn structure, play bishop e7, so I can get castled. He castles, we castle, we're ready, we develop, we're ready to castle. And there we go. So this is like a starting position. So what does he do? He lifts his queen. Why? I'm not really sure. I'm going to play h6, build up my position, restrict him. Is he going to go for the sacrifice? Takes, 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 knight h7. That would have been fun. But he goes b3. What does it threaten? Nothing. What's the drawback? Weaken some dark squares for no particular reason. We could expand on the queen side if we want. We could continue developing all the reasonable moves. I'll just develop my bishop towards the center. And everything looks really solid. So does white's position, but he goes a4, putting all his pawns on light. Now he can never play a3. So we have the b4 square, although we don't need it. Maybe he just wants to gain space, but maybe that's overextended. If you get to push d5 in the Sicilian, that usually frees up your position entirely. It is playable here, so I'm going to play it. Now these three pawns and our beautiful development, we forced it through. Normally he goes e4, you go c5. You don't get to just play d5. But here we play it. He takes. We take with the knight, put it in the center. He has the option of trading, but he doesn't have to. If he does take, do we take with the queen or the bishop? We could develop the queen. Huh. We'll just take with the queen. Connect our rooks. I'm sure they're all fine, no matter what you did. And now we have two pawns on the fifth. He doesn't. He has one, but it's an A pawn, so it's not in the center. It still gives him space though on that side, but I'd much rather have the two central ones. So he plays c4, putting a second one, but that creates a big backwards weakness on these two squares. But for right now, our queen's hit, so we need to move it to a reasonable square like this. Coordinating with our bishop, keeping our rooks connected. Now we can definitely hop our knight into b4 and attack this newly created d3 weakness. We can also hop it in the center, but that gives him easy trades. Okay, so our knight defends our e5 pawn, but we do want to move it at some point. So we want to defend our e5 pawn a different way. Bishop to f6 comes, well, now it's even stronger, but even before I move the queen, it comes with the threat of pushing the pawn, hitting the rook and the knight. So now he hits it twice, we defend it twice, x-ray the d4 square, and we're ready to push. So this looks very bad for white. My bishops are better than his bishops. What did he just do? He takes the pawn that I undefended and hits my rook. But this can't work, right? I go here, he pushes the pawn. I mean, I could take the knight even. So he hops the knight in the center, but it's hanging. So I could take it. I'm going to take with the knight because it comes with the royal fork threat, which is the stronger threat that I have. So if he decides to take the rook, he will lose the game faster. So he should, I don't know. The game's just over for him because he's down a piece now. And I have threats. My bishops are monsters, especially the dark one. So the game's over. If he takes, because we're up a piece, we can queen trade. But because he's in the skewer, just take with the bishop and win more stuff. Okay, he just defends this, but this is just as bad because we get the bishop with check and the queen hangs. Sorry, Paco. We take the queen. We're threatening the rook. He takes our rook. We take his rook. His bishop's loose, and we're up 11 points of material. He takes there. We take here. We don't even care about his bishop. Let's just threaten checkmate. He blocks it. He sees it. Let's harass the rook. Where are you going to go? He's going to tuck himself in. Fine, I'll take your bishop then. If you make me. And then resign anyway. So let's see. How did that game go? Whenever they try to close Sicilian, we just try to abuse the d4 square. We have all zeros, 17 cent pawn, 98%. So a logical game where we control the dark squares, clamp down on the dark squares, support the dark squares, and then we have to develop and castle. We have to develop and castle, develop and castle. And this is restricting the bishop from going to a bit more active square, restricting the knight. This sacrifice doesn't work. Gives your king room in the endgame. And you can even have knight h7 trying to remaneuver your pieces at some point. So we go bishop e6, development in center. Engine says black is minus 0.7 and better from here on out. So almost positionally up a pawn, even if it's not immediately obvious. This c-pawn, our c-pawn is better than his c-pawn. And that's not it. Bishop e6, bishop e6. Okay, a4. And now whenever you can break in the center, you should. Is it the best move? Yes, it is. d5. Okay. So d5 just frees the bishop, frees the queen, makes a place for rooks. because it's going to open up, or we're going to push and win a piece. And it gets rid of this hole. The one thing white has in the position is the d5 hole, but by pushing, we've removed that weakness. We get a harmonious position where we do a bunch of trades. Black is minus 1.2. And now 1.7 because he makes more strategic weaknesses, long-term weaknesses, by pushing his c-pawn. Calm retreating move, and then improving a piece for free because of the threats. So they want him to retreat his queen off of this diagonal for obvious reasons. But he goes pawn hunting, and it jumps to minus 4. So I said this couldn't work. And yeah, there's only two moves that win. e4 wins outright. And then there's this weird move b6. What does this do? b6, bishop takes f8, then e4. It just forces the issue. Somehow it's still winning though. That's how strong e4 is. So we play the strong move, the obvious move. And they want him to give up his queen. But let's say he just pushes the pawn. I said we could just take the knight. If he goes for your rook, you win more material, and that's that. I don't know why I keep clicking that. So anyway, he goes pawn hunting. We play e4. He jumps in the center and hangs a piece. So we just take free stuff, the queen, and the game is over. Easy enough. So now we play muffin. Who plays f6 and e5. If we had our knight here, we'd have the Damiano's trick. So let's put our knight here. Okay, we no longer have it, but his position's still terrible. So what do we want to do? We could take this. He takes with the f pawn. I'm going to take this. He's going to take. Now his light squares are really weak. If we take this, he's going to take back. We can give this check, but it doesn't work. He can go here. Probably. So you could pressure the knight to try to win the pawn in Ruy Lopez style, but he'll just defend it. Which is why the Ruy Lopez is weird. Okay, how do I attack this guy quickly? Let's bring the bishop out to the diagonal. And he just develops a knight covering the queen h5 idea. Also hitting our pawn. Okay, let's continue developing. Let's pin that knight. He throws in a check. C3 is like the instant response, but then you can't go knight in the center. But let's do it. We get the turn back. I like that. It also stops his knight, so it is a good move. What? He just took a pawn and hung his queen? What? This is some new age tactic. Hello? Hello, muffin. Earth to muffin. And then he just moves his bishop. What a follow-up. Okay. So now we're up a queen, and that's the end of that. I'll just castle. He could have my bishop. I don't care what the engine says. We obviously just win up a queen, whether you're up +8, +5. Obviously the engine can make better moves. He sacks stuff for no reason. So now he just gives up 2 pieces for rook and pawn, which we'll take. It makes it all the worse that he's down a queen. And now everything's on the back rank, which is funny. So now we can develop our queen. If he moves his knight, that's going to be disaster. we had a dark square bishop, we could checkmate him next, but we don't. Still, it's disaster. Let's just bring in more pieces since we don't have the dark square checkmate just yet. It's actually hard for our pieces exactly where they are to coordinate on that square, so it just so happens that way. He's trying to develop in castle, but there's really not time for this. I'm going to take a pawn. I mean, now I have access to the dark squares for free. I could have done this last turn, but I waited. Now we can give, dark square checks if we want. Let's give some checks. We don't need pawns. The only reason I took this pawn was to get access to the dark. Okay, so now he goes passive, so we can just, I don't know, bring in pieces and stuff. Just centralize, put him anywhere. I'm not really calculating. He does this, but the knight's pinned, right? So this is hanging. Also, you could have and should have maybe gone rook d1. But this is good because now there's no c6 supporting the pawn chain. Okay, he attacks the knight. I'll just improve it. Thank you. Improve it for free. Here's a good rule of thumb. When you're down a queen, resign the game and analyze a different one. Or analyze it and play a different one. So we give him a bunch of checks. We bring in our last piece, but he doesn't let us do it. So now he resigns. I just want to make sure I didn't make any, aside from giving him my bishop on purpose, any real blunders. All zeros but one mistake, 94. Which mistake is this? Oh yeah, why did I forget about fried liver? So if you look at the graph, it was just a perfect game, but there was this one moment. We were opening up the light squares, we developed our bishop to take advantage of it. He goes here, and then I just casually developed my bishop, but we have the fried liver, and I forgot. You can immediately jump your knight to g5, and he's not in time to castle because he was too slow developing. So he has to play d5 just like in the regular fried liver when they don't play f6. We take with the pawn. He's supposed to jump to the knight. Just like in fried liver theory, it's similar position. And the complications continue, but at the end of it all, you're kind of +1, assuming everyone plays perfectly. So that was a thing, moving the same piece twice, but with a threat, concrete reason. You should know the follow-ups though after he pushes the pawn and when he goes knight a5. See that? You don't get into trouble. So yeah. So we don't play that. We play a more normal move and keep a smaller advantage, but it turns out to be an engine mistake. In any case, not that bad. You're developing, affecting the center. You're still better. Thumbs up. So that's enough for now. Good luck in your chess. Goodbye.